I thought he was amazing at that.
Yeah, he really was. Like one of my first, images of TSN as a kid was watching the draft more than anything. It was always Bob with the
Feather
crazy
hairdo.
haircut back in the day, and So congrats to Bob on just an incredible run. And we were over there doing free agent frenzy, and I got to be honest, pretty brutal day, all things considered. Like not a ton of things happening today because everything happened yesterday.
Yes,
for the most part.
All hell broke loose yesterday. There was trades and stuff like that. But I like the fact, you and I were talking on the way over, a lot of managers, they've still got currency and they got lots of time to work that out, to reshape their team or shape their team.
Well, and I believe one of the guys you're talking about happens to be on the line right now. I believe we've got him. Here's the GM of the Maple Leafs, Brad Treliving. How you doing, Brad?
I'm doing good. How'd you guys grind through the day?
Well, we're waiting for you to do something. I mean, I guess you signed Pizzetta, but what did you do all day? I think that's what Leaf fans want to hear.
Yeah, well, first off, I think I just jumped on when you guys were mentioning at the end there about Bobby Mack, and I remember Bob's one of the first media guys I remember, covering the business full time, and he's his draft coverage was legendary. I remember when he was writing for the Hockey News, and he had a way better set of hair. That was quite a set of hair he had back in the day on those draft coverages. So just congratulations on a Hall of Fame career to the best that ever did it. So to Bobby Mack, congratulations.
Yes, absolutely. It was
as far as today it was as busy as it normally is. We went in today obviously with Mitch leaving. Our focus was trying to really focus at the top of our lineup, and it wasn't what I would call a large list of guys that would fit. You're not replacing Mitch necessarily and saying, okay, Mitch is gone, you're going to get one guy to go do it. We've tried to do some things to make up for some of the things that Mitch does. But we spent our time on players that we felt would be a good fit there, and really trying to keep, instead of racing out and signing a guy here and there and all of a sudden our cap space gets eaten up. We were trying to fish for somebody that could fit into our top six. As of now, haven't been able to do that. The rest of the gang was looking at some depth, really some depth signings for our roster, and that's really taken up the bulk of the day, talking to teams on trade opportunities. So that's been the bulk of the day.
Tree, do you feel like you have the luxury of time and also now some flexibility with your cap situation where you can, like you say, start to chip away at the market and take your time to, build your team out in the absence of Mitch? Because, again, you don't drop the puck till October. So, everything didn't have to be sorted out today. That was one of the things that I tried to, get out there when we were talking today in our conversations is, teams don't have to submit their lists and submit everything today. So you feel like you've got some time with some patience here?
Well, certainly have time. I mean, today represents there's, depending on what you're looking for, there's a handful of those players that are going to come off the board today, right, that are gone. So the list obviously gets a lot shorter, and depending on what you're looking for, the free agent market, if you will, in terms of finding the right fit probably comes a little bit shorter. So you're looking at the trade, trade scenarios and the like. But so, yeah, we've got time, but certainly you feel it's an interesting market right now because as in years past with the raising cap, you've seen guys, and it'll take a day or so to flush everything out, once all the signings come on the board, to where, everybody usually takes a step back to see where they're at and what opportunities may be out there for us. But with the cap rising, one of the things that we talked about even going back in January is the probability of teams signing their own players, in my opinion, increased this year than really the last it seems like a long time, but really since we ran into the flat cap, through COVID, where guys had money to retain their players if they so choose, and so you saw a lot of that really leading up to today, and even before the bell went off, of a lot of people retaining their players, left fewer players on the market, and one of the you always want to feel like you've addressed needs coming out of free agency or today, because as I said, the list gets a little bit smaller. But what we didn't want to do was just sign people to duplicate what we have here, and so we've got some flexibility as it relates to the cap, but you're always looking to. I always would rather have players, so we'll see how that continues to work itself out in the coming days.
Well, you nailed it. The consistent theme leading up to free agency was that teams just kept their players.
Yeah.
And obviously you did that with John Tavares, but the most prominent free agent chose not to do that, and that, of course, would be Mitch Marner. Marner obviously ended up wanting to go to Vegas. And I'm curious if you can take us through the timeline here, Brad, in terms of when it became clear to you and your staff that Mitch did not want to be a Maple Leaf anymore.
I don't know if there's an aha moment, Brian. Really over the course of the last year, I guess, when we were able to sign him, we went to his camp to engage, and start the process. And early on, they just felt they wanted to wait some time, and then it was they made it clear to us that they wanted to wait to the end of the season. And I say all this, Mitch is fully within his rights to do, as any player is, to do whatever they want. So there's no responsibility on them to say we have to negotiate at a certain point. So I want to be clear on that. And then as we went through the process, and it became clearer and clearer to us that the potential is that they may not want to engage in contract. We looked at other opportunities, right? And throughout this process with Mitch's contractual rights that he had, he controlled a lot of this process, right? And again, that was negotiated. That's fully within his rights. And so in a lot of ways, he controlled the process because he had a no-move clause. Now, that doesn't prohibit us having conversations on potential outcomes. And I'm not going to get into a lot of get into the weeds in terms of my discussions with the player as representative, because I think those things